Welcome back to the Deep Dive Feed series.
Yeah.
We've
Oh,
already
yeah.
covered Seminole Wellness Dynasport,
Right.
Seminole Feed's Senior Formula,
Yes.
and Seminole Wellness Equisafe.
Mm-hmm.
So now, for our fourth episode, we're diving into Seminole Feed Equalizer.
Okay.
This is a unique feed that might be the perfect thing for your horse.
Absolutely. Building on what we've already learned, today we're going to be uncovering what makes Equalizer stand out and how it can benefit your horse.
From what I've read, Equalizer is described as a ration balancer pellet.
Right.
So what does that mean? In the horse world, what is that?
So it means that it's designed to provide a concentrated dose of essential nutrients, things like vitamins and minerals and quality protein, without adding a bunch of calories from carbs and fats.
Okay.
You see, a lot of horses who are on a forage-based diet just might not be getting all the nutrients they need from hay alone.
Oh, okay. So it's like a multivitamin for horses, but, it's in a pellet form.
Yeah. Yes. That's a great way to think about it. It's really just about filling in those nutritional gaps and ensuring that your horse is getting a balanced diet. And so whether you're feeding it as a sole ration with forage or using it to balance out other grains in their meals, it's a great option.
Okay, so that makes sense. And I see on the product sheet that it's recommended for a pretty wide range of horses.
Mm-hmm.
You've got your growing horses, breeding stock, pleasure horses, performance horses.
Right.
How can one feed be good for all these different types of horses?
Well, the beauty of Equalizer really lies in its versatility.
Okay.
It's like a foundation that you can build upon.
Wow.
So by adjusting the amount that you feed, you can actually fine-tune the nutrient intake to match your horse's specific requirements.
Okay.
No matter if they're a growing youngster, a pregnant mare, or like you said, a really high-level athlete.
Okay. So it's about customizing the portion size
Mm-hmm.
based on the horse's needs and not necessarily changing the feed itself.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the ingredients themselves actually play a key role in that adaptability.
All right. Let's talk about those ingredients.
Yes, yeah.
So the product sheet lists dehulled soybean meal, wheat middlings, and dehydrated alfalfa meal as like the top 3 ingredients. Those sound familiar from what we've talked about with other Seminole feeds.
Right.
So I'm guessing they're the protein and fiber base of Equalizer as well.
You're exactly right. They're kind of like the building blocks. They provide the protein for muscle development and growth and the fiber for healthy digestion.
Okay.
And Seminole Feed is really careful about selecting these ingredients. They look for their digestibility and nutrient content.
So it's not just about like protein and fiber, but the quality of where it comes from as well.
Exactly. And that's something that, we at Sunset Ranch really appreciate about Seminole Feed is that they're really committed to quality.
Oh, okay, great. Now what about the fat sources in Equalizer? I see soybean oil and rice bran oil are listed. And I know a lot of horse owners are wary of fats in feed, especially if they have horses prone to metabolic issues.
Mm-hmm.
So what makes these particular fats good?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's really important to know the difference between the types of fats.
Yeah.
While some fats can be problematic, soybean oil and rice bran oil provide essential fatty acids, and those are really crucial for a horse's overall health.
So it's about choosing the right types of fats and not just like cutting it out entirely.
Exactly. So these oils will provide energy, they contribute to a nice shiny coat, and they also help to support healthy skin. And they can even help with inflammation, which can be really beneficial for horses that have joint issues or are recovering from strenuous activity.
Speaking of energy, I see Seminole Ultra Bloom is also listed.
Yes.
We've talked about that in previous episodes.
I have.
It's all about that consistent, slow-release energy, right?
Yeah, that's right. Seminole Feed is really prioritizing that steady energy release across their product line. And we find that really beneficial for the horses at Sunset Ranch. They don't have those sugar highs and crashes that can lead to excitability or, digestive upset.
Okay. So it's about keeping their energy levels even, which makes them easier to manage and, happier.
Exactly. And speaking of happy horses, let's talk about ground flaxseed. All right, so
Oh, yeah.
imagine a horse with a dull coat, flaky skin, stiff joints.
Okay.
That's a horse that could really benefit from omega-3 fatty acids.
So it's like a beauty treatment from the inside out.
Exactly. They help promote healthy skin, a glossy coat, and flexible joints. And like we mentioned earlier, they also have anti-inflammatory properties, which can be helpful for those achy joints and muscles.
Yeah. That's especially important for our older horses, many of whom have a bit of arthritis.
Absolutely. And for performance horses, omega-3s can help aid in muscle recovery and can reduce the risk of injuries.
It's amazing how one little seed can be so good.
It really is. And speaking of nutritional powerhouses, let's move on to yeast culture.
Okay.
Another thing we've talked about in other deep dives.
Yeah.
So I'm sensing a theme here.
Yeah.
Digestive health is really a top priority for Seminole Feed.
We've talked about how a horse's digestive system is very complex and sensitive.
It is, and yeast culture plays a crucial role in maintaining that balance. It helps to promote the growth of beneficial bacteria in the hindgut, which are really essential for breaking down fiber and extracting nutrients from the food.
So it's like giving their gut a little boost.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Okay, so the next ingredient is chelated trace minerals.
Okay.
So can you break that down? What does chelated mean and why does it matter?
Okay, imagine that you're trying to deliver a package to a specific address, but the roads are all blocked off and there are detours everywhere.
Yeah.
It's going to be really hard for that package to get to where it needs to go, right?
I see where you're going.
Mm.
How does this relate to minerals?
So minerals in their basic form can be difficult for a horse to absorb.
Okay.
There are all sorts of obstacles in their digestive tract that can prevent them from getting where they need to go.
So chelated minerals are like those packages with a special delivery service.
Yes, exactly. Chelation is the process of binding minerals to organic molecules like amino acids, which act like those special delivery trucks. And it just makes it a lot easier for the horse's body to absorb and utilize those minerals.
So it's about getting the most out of those trace minerals.
Precisely. And even though they're called trace minerals and they're small in quantity, they play a huge role in a horse's health.
Yeah.
They're involved in everything from bone density and muscle function to immune support and hoof health.
That makes sense. It's like making sure those nutrients are actually getting where they need to go in the body.
Exactly. And that attention to detail, that focus on making sure that those nutrients are available to the horse is something that we really admire about Seminole Feed.
Okay.
Let's not forget about the vitamins that are an equalizer.
Yes, I see vitamin A, D3, E, and biotin listed. I know those are all essential.
Yeah.
Can you just give me a quick overview of what they do? What are their specific benefits for horses?
So think of vitamins as kind of like the spark plugs that keep the horse's body running smoothly. Each one has its own special role. Vitamin A supports vision, immune function, and skin health.
Okay.
Vitamin D3 is crucial for calcium absorption, which is, as you know, essential for strong bones. Vitamin E is a powerful antioxidant that helps protect cells from damage.
Okay.
And then biotin is well known for its role in promoting strong, healthy hooves.
So it's like a comprehensive blend of vitamins that support their overall health.
Exactly. And that's what we love about Seminole Feed products. They're really thoughtfully formulated to provide a holistic approach to equine nutrition.
Now, I'm curious about the feeding guidelines. The product sheet mentions that there are detailed directions based on the horse's age, size, and activity level. But with all these good ingredients, is there a risk of overdoing it?
That's a great question, and it really highlights an important point. Moderation is key when it comes to feeding horses. While Equalizer is packed with nutrients, it's designed to be fed in specific amounts to complement a forage-based diet.
So it's not about replacing their hay, it's about making it better.
You got it. And that's where those feeding guidelines come in handy. They give you a starting point based on your horse's needs. However, we always recommend that you talk to your vet to determine the best feeding rate for your individual horse.
That makes sense because they might have specific health conditions or dietary restrictions.
Exactly. It's about tailoring the feeding plan to the individual horse.
Yeah. Okay, now let's talk about Seminole Feed as a company.
Okay.
They've been around since 1934.
Right.
So that's almost a century of experience in the horse feed world.
It is. And being family-owned and operated for that long, it really shows their dedication to quality and commitment to the horse community.
And they make their feeds in Ocala, Florida, which is known as the horse capital of the world, right?
That's right, it is.
So what does that tell you about their values?
It shows that they're really embedded in the heart of the horse world.
Yeah.
Being in Ocala allows them to stay really connected to the needs of horses and the people who care for them.
And they offer a 100% satisfaction guarantee. So they're pretty confident in their products.
Absolutely. They really stand behind their products, and they are committed to making sure that horse owners are happy with the results.
So let's dig a little deeper into this idea of energy and how it relates to a horse's health and performance.
Okay.
We've already talked about the slow-release energy from Seminole Ultra Bloom, and the good fats from the soybean and rice bran oil.
Yeah.
But how does that translate into real-world benefits for the horse?
That's a great question, and it gets at why choosing the right energy sources for your horse is so important.
Okay.
Think about it this way. If you were trying to run a marathon, but you only had candy bars for fuel, you might get a quick burst of energy, but then you would crash pretty hard, right?
Yeah, horses need sustained energy, not just quick bursts.
Exactly. And that's where those slow-release energy sources like Seminole Ultra Bloom and the healthy fats from those oils really come into play.
Okay.
They provide a steady stream of energy that helps the horse perform at their best without those dramatic changes in blood sugar.
So it's about keeping their energy levels steady, which makes for a happier, more manageable horse.
Exactly. And that translates to benefits across different riding disciplines.
Okay.
For pleasure horses, it means they're less likely to get tired or have those sudden bursts of energy that can make them, a little difficult to handle.
Yeah.
For performance horses, it means they have the stamina and endurance to really tackle those challenging workouts or competitions. And for growing horses, it means they have that consistent energy they need for healthy development.
Okay. So I'm curious about the digestive health aspect. We talked about yeast culture, aiding digestion, and nutrient absorption.
Right.
But how does Equalizer go beyond just adding a single ingredient?
Well, that's where the synergy of ingredients comes into play. It's not just about one magic bullet, but about a combination of elements that work together.
So it's like a holistic approach.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. So in Equalizer, you have the fiber from the dehulled soybean meal, the wheat middlings, and the dehydrated alfalfa meal.
Okay.
Then you add those easily digestible fats from the oils.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, you include the yeast culture to further support the gut microbiome.
So it's like a three-pronged approach to digestive health.
Exactly. And this is so important because, as we've talked about, a healthy digestive system is the foundation for a horse's overall well-being. When a horse can efficiently digest its food and absorb nutrients, it's just better equipped to thrive.
Yeah, it's like they say, you are what you eat, or in this case, your horse is what they absorb.
Exactly.
Now, something that we at Sunset Ranch really appreciate about Seminole Feed is their commitment to being transparent and educating horse owners. It goes beyond just listing ingredients.
Right.
They provide resources to help us really understand what we're feeding.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that really drew us to Seminole Feed as a dealer.
Okay.
They're not just about selling products, they're about building a community of informed horse owners.
Yeah. Their website is great. They have the feeding guides, blog posts, the whole feeding solutions section we talked about.
It's like having a personal equine nutritionist on call.
Yeah.
And they have a hotline where you can talk directly to their equine nutritionists, which is awesome.
And they're not afraid to really explain the science behind their products. They make it clear and easy to understand.
Exactly. It's about empowering owners with knowledge so they can make the best decisions for their horses.
I also love that they show what champion riders think about Seminole Feed.
Yeah.
It's more than just marketing. It's like they're sharing real-world insights from people who have seen the results.
It's that combination of scientific expertise and practical experience that makes Seminole Feed stand out.
No. So now let's talk about cost.
Okay.
Premium feeds, like the ones Seminole Feed makes, tend to be more expensive than some other brands.
Right.
So how do you talk to horse owners about that if they're on a budget?
That's a really important point to consider. I always start by saying that feeding your horse is an investment. It's an investment in their long-term health and well-being.
Yeah, it's like you get what you pay for, right?
Right.
Choosing a high-quality feed could actually end up saving you money in the long run.
It could, because it can prevent health issues down the line that would lead to vet bills.
Exactly.
Think about it like this. Would you rather spend a bit more on gas for your car, knowing that it will run better and last longer?
Mm-hmm.
Or would you rather use the cheapest gas and risk having to deal with engine problems in the future?
It's the same concept.
It is. So investing in quality nutrition can actually help prevent things like digestive problems, metabolic disorders, and even joint issues.
Right, which can be very expensive to treat.
They can. And when you break down the cost per feeding, the difference between a premium feed like Equalizer and a cheaper brand might not be as big as you think.
And you might end up feeding less because Equalizer has all those vitamins and minerals.
Exactly. You need less because it's so nutrient dense. You're giving your horse what they need and not just fillers.
Right, so while the price tag on the bag might look higher, you might actually use less overall, which can balance out the cost.
Exactly.
And there's also that peace of mind that comes with knowing you're buying from a good company like Seminole Feed.
That's right. You know you're getting that consistent quality, those carefully sourced ingredients, and they really stand behind their products.
And that peace of mind is priceless. Okay, so let's talk about reading feed tags. They can be a bit overwhelming.
Oh, yeah, they can.
There's all the percentages and all the words I don't understand.
Yeah.
So do you have any tips for understanding them?
I'm glad you brought that up. Feed tags are like a roadmap to the nutritional content,
Yeah.
but yeah, they can definitely be intimidating.
Yeah.
So the first thing I tell people to look for is the guaranteed analysis.
Okay.
That section lists the minimum and maximum levels of certain nutrients. So like crude protein, crude fat, crude fiber, and various minerals.
So it's like a snapshot of what's in the feed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that those are just minimums and maximums. The actual levels can vary a bit from batch to batch. And that's why Seminole Feed's fixed formula approach is so great.
Okay.
You know you're getting the same nutrient levels every time you buy a bag.
Yeah, that's reassuring. So now what about the ingredient list? How important is that?
The ingredient list is really important because it tells you exactly what's in the feed. And the ingredients are listed in order by weight, so the first one is the most prominent.
So this is where you can see if they're using good ingredients like whole grains and good protein and added nutrients.
Exactly. You want to avoid feeds that have a lot of fillers, like corn cobs or rice hulls. Those don't provide much nutritional value.
And it's a good way to see if there's anything your horse might be allergic to.
Yes, absolutely. If your horse has dietary restrictions, you definitely want to check that ingredient list carefully.
Now, I know some people get really focused on comparing the protein percentages across different feeds.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
While protein is definitely important, it's not the only thing to consider. Just focusing on the protein percentage can be misleading.
So it's more about the quality of the protein and all the other nutrients in the feed?
Exactly. A feed with a slightly lower protein percentage but higher quality ingredients could be a much better choice than one with a high protein level from a less digestible source.
It's like comparing a steak to a hot dog.
That's a great analogy. It's about looking at the big picture.
Yeah. And how much protein a horse needs depends on their age and what they're doing, right?
Right, exactly. A growing horse needs more protein than a mature horse who's just hanging out. So that's why it's always good to talk to your vet. They can help you decide what's right for your horse.
Now, besides the analysis and ingredient list, are there other parts of the feed tag we should be looking at?
The feeding directions are important, but they should really just be a starting point.
Okay.
The amount you feed will depend on your horse's specific needs.
It's important to watch their weight and adjust how much you're giving them.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to call the feed company if you have any questions.
Ugh.
They can give you more information about their products.
Okay, so let's step back from the feed tag for a minute
Okay.
and talk about some of the common mistakes people make when it comes to feeding their horses.
Yeah.
What do you see out there?
One of the most common mistakes is overfeeding.
Oh, okay.
I think a lot of horse owners want to make sure their horses are getting enough, but it can lead to weight problems and other issues.
They just want to make their horse happy.
Right. But horses are designed to graze for most of the day, eating small amounts of food consistently.
Okay.
So when we interrupt that with big meals, it can cause digestive problems.
Right.
So it's about making their environment as close to natural as possible,
Yeah.
even if they're living in a more domesticated setting.
So always make sure they have access to hay or other forage.
Exactly. And when it comes to concentrated feeds like Equalizer, it's important to follow the directions and adjust the amount based on your horse's needs.
Okay. So what other mistakes do you see?
Another common mistake is making sudden changes to a horse's diet. Their digestive systems are sensitive, and they need time to adjust to new foods.
Right. So introduce any new feed slowly.
Exactly, like over a week or two. And if you're changing anything big about their diet, like a new type of hay or a different feed program, talk to your vet first.
Okay.
They can help you make the transition safely. Another thing people sometimes forget about is water.
Yeah, that's important.
Water is essential for every part of the horse's body, and they can get dehydrated quickly, especially when it's hot out or if they've been working hard.
So always have fresh water available.
Yes. And finally, if you notice anything unusual about your horse, don't try to diagnose it yourself.
Right. Call the vet.
Call the vet. They have the training and experience to figure out what's going on and give your horse the right care.
So as we finish up this part of our deep dive into Equalizer, I want to come back to something we talked about earlier. The importance of educating ourselves and making informed choices when it comes to horse care.
That's so important. Owning a horse is a journey of learning, and nutrition is a big part of that.
And there's so much information out there, but it's important to be careful about where you get your information.
Absolutely. Seek out credible sources like your vet, equine nutritionists, reputable feed manufacturers, and experienced horse owners.
And don't be afraid to ask questions. The more you know, the better you can care for your horse.
Exactly.
And remember, we're here at Sunset Ranch to help you along the way. We love sharing what we know and helping horse owners feel confident in the choices they make.
We do.
Now let's move on to a topic that's crucial for understanding why the right feed is so important. The equine digestive system.
Right.
Get ready for some surprising insights and practical tips to keep your horse's gut healthy.
All right, buckle up. We're about to take a journey into the horse's digestive tract, and it's a lot more complicated than you might think.
I'm ready.
Great. Because to really appreciate why those benefits matter, we need to understand how a horse's gut actually works.
It's like knowing the terrain before you plan a road trip. Knowing the map helps you choose the best route.
Exactly. Horses are grazing animals. They spend most of their day eating small amounts of forage, and their digestive system is designed for that continuous flow of fiber.
Okay, so it's different than humans who can eat larger meals less often.
Very different. A horse's stomach is actually pretty small compared to their body size. It's meant for small, frequent meals, not big ones.
So if the stomach isn't doing the heavy lifting, where does all the work happen?
That's where the hindgut comes in. It's the powerhouse of the horse's digestive system, and that's where most of the fiber breakdown happens.
So the hindgut, that's the cecum and the large colon, right?
That's right. The cecum is this big pouch-like structure where the small intestine meets the large intestine. You can think of it kind of like a giant fermentation vat.
Fermentation, that sounds familiar. We've talked about ingredients that help the good bacteria in the gut. right?
Yes, and that's because those bacteria are really important for breaking down that fiber. So in the cecum, all those little microbes are feasting on the fiber and producing volatile fatty acids, which the horse then uses for energy.
So it's like they're working together, the bacteria to eat, and the horse gets energy.
Exactly. It's a pretty amazing system. It's evolved over millions of years, but it's also delicate and can be easily disrupted.
Oh, so what kind of things can mess it up?
Sudden changes in their diet, feeding them too much starch, stress, even some medications can all impact that balance of bacteria in the hindgut.
And when it's out of balance, it can lead to problems, right? Like colic or laminitis.
Absolutely. Colic is just a general term for abdominal pain, and it can be caused by a lot of things, but often it's related to some kind of digestive upset.
And laminitis, like we discussed in our deep dive on Seminole Wellness EquiSafe, is when there's inflammation in the hoof.
Right.
And that can be really painful.
It can be very painful and even debilitating. And while there are a lot of things that can cause laminitis, one thing that can contribute is feeding a diet that's high in starch and disrupts that hindgut balance.
Okay. So knowing how their digestive system works helps us make better decisions about what we feed them.
Precisely. That's why Seminole Feed focuses on those slow-release energy sources like Seminole Ultra Bloom
Okay.
and includes ingredients like yeast culture to support all those good bacteria.
So it's about working with the horse's system and not against it.
Exactly. And that's where the idea of feeding low starch and high fiber comes in.
Okay.
We want to give them a diet that's as close to what they would naturally eat as possible, which means lots of forage and a controlled amount of concentrated feed.
And that's where a feed like Equalizer comes in,
Yes.
because it has all the vitamins and minerals and protein, but without all that extra starch.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance, giving them the nutrients they need while keeping their digestive system happy.
Now, I know you're a big fan of hay testing.
I am.
So can you tell us why that's so important, especially for horses who have special dietary needs?
Sure. Hay testing is basically getting a nutritional profile of your hay.
Okay.
Just like those feed tags we were looking at, a hay analysis tells you how much sugar, starch, protein, and other nutrients are in your hay.
So you know exactly what you're feeding.
Exactly. And this is super important for horses who have things like insulin resistance or Cushing's disease, where you have to be really careful about how much sugar they're getting.
Right. Or if you have a performance horse and need to adjust their protein depending on how much they're working.
Right. Hay testing lets you make informed choices about the type of hay you're feeding and how much of it to give.
It's another way that being informed helps us take better care of our horses.
Absolutely.
And that brings us back to Seminole Feed.
Yeah,
They're really committed to educating horse owners.
they are.
They give us the tools and resources to understand all this stuff.
It's not just about selling feed, it's about helping us take good care of our horses.
I agree.
And that's something we're really proud to be a part of here at Sunset Ranch. It's all about working together to make sure our horses are healthy and happy.
So to sum up our deep dive into Seminole Feed Equalizer,
Yeah.
feeding a horse is about more than just giving them food.
Right.
It's about understanding their digestive system and making choices that support their overall health.
It's about doing our research and working with companies like Seminole Feed and Sunset Ranch.
Who are dedicated to providing the best possible care.
Absolutely.
And if you're in the Norman, Oklahoma area,
Come see us at Sunset Ranch. And we're
We're
always happy to
proud.
answer your questions.
and don't forget, this deep dive was produced by Sunset Ranch with the assistance of AI.
Sunset Ranch in Norman, Oklahoma is a proud Seminole Feed dealer.
Happy trails, everyone.